All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you all for being here and taking some time out of your day to be able to be here for our mental uh, wellness talking circle, the fourth one of this semester. So I appreciate you all. Some of you, this is probably your first time. Some of you is probably your second or third. So thank you for being back here again to be here with Jacqueline. And me, as your host, if you don't know me by now, my name is Julio Barron. I work at the American Indian College Fund as a college success coach. I've been here at the College Fund for over 2 years now. I work remotely from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and I do a lot of different things, for our full circle recipients and be able to recruit and be able to utilize different programmings for all of our students to utilize from the College Fund. So yeah, no, thank you all for being here. Again, this is going to be recorded. Doesn't mean that you should not share anything, and that is definitely okay. If you share anything on this, on the video, it would be edited out. So this is a safe place. You can literally say anything you want. Jacqueline is here for you all. So again, a safe place right here. Okay. But yeah, no, enough about me. I'm gonna introduce our guest, Jacqueline. Go ahead, Jacqueline.
Yeah, thank you, Julio. Really appreciate you. Um, well, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Jacelyn Salabye. I am Dene. I'm originally from the Navajo Nation. She'e Kia'ani Nishla. Tachini Bashishchin, Tobaha Edishiche, Do Twittijini Edishanella. I think Julio could probably say my clan now. um, I'm based here in Flagstaff, Arizona, and just a little bit about myself. I'm a mother first and foremost, and I have three daughters. They range from the age of 4 to 21. But I do have a daughter in college, and I have a little one who's going to go into kindergarten soon. So a wide range of girl stuff that I'm familiar with. So ask me about boy stuff, I have no idea. Um, and so my full-time job, I work with a company and we provide grantee technical assistance to Indigenous organizations, tribal organizations across the United States. And so I'm, here and there every month. And I love what I do. I'm always a big advocate for Indigenous communities regaining their strength and finding new paths for healing and sustaining that healing. And so I come to you as, a helper and basically wanting to guide you into a good direction so that way you are living a good life, We all deserve and we all have the ability to live a good life. And so that's basically why I do what I do. I'm a social worker for 15 years, 15 plus years actually, and just doing different things. And I really enjoy providing you all with this presentation. We are focusing on stress management. And I don't know if any of you were here in the previous discussions, but we really focus on, stress management, mental health. What does that look like? Um, I believe that mental health is really not talked about. It's often stigmatized. It's often um, thought about as being crazy or, having struggles that nobody else has, which is false. Mental health is very important. It's very much a part of you. It's very much something that we deal with every single day, right? If you have poor mental health, how are you going to get through your day? How are you going to get through life? And so we'll talk about some of these things as we move through our our presentation, and I'll try to keep track of the chat. Um, but first off, I want to go through introductions of you all because I like to hear what you all have to say. And I try not to speak too much. I try so hard, but sometimes I just go on and on and on, right? I want you to introduce yourself. You can do this in the chat. You can get off mute and, I want to see your face. That's fine. Or you can just talk without your camera on. I'm open to any and all of those type of sharing. So if you could come off chat and provide us your name, provide us your tribe, your clan, if it's applicable to you. If not, that's okay. Um, Tell us where you're originally from, because I know some of us are not sitting on where our homelands are. Some of us might be out in school or in the urban areas. What college are you going to, and what is your career goal? So we'll do that, and then we'll go into a scavenger hunt. So first and foremost, who wants to go first in providing us with your introduction? Who
I
would
can
like
go
to
first.
go first? Go ahead. Yes, thank you for sharing. That's awesome. Who else would like to share, introduce themselves so we can get to know you a little bit better? Please take time to look at the chat. Anybody else like to introduce themselves? When we talk about stress and we talk about, I'll go into this a little bit further. But the main purpose why I like to have us introduce ourselves is because, we as Indigenous women, we are, carriers of the clan. Some of us are matriarchal, right? We are basically the leaders in our families. I know in today's society, we are generally the breadwinners. We're the ones who are consistently trying to make things happen. It's not to fault anyone. It's not to say anything bad about our partners or those who are trying. And that's a result of historical trauma, right? Intergenerational trauma in general that have been passed down from our grandfathers and our parents. And so when we see our Indigenous men, our counterparts, we are often put in a place where those individuals are kind of falling short in terms of rearing the family, protecting the family, raising our children. And I talk about this a lot when I go across the nation, and we talk to different communities, and we talk about our Indigenous men stepping up. And we are here, right? Us as women, we're stepping up. We're here. We're raising our children. We're making sure the future generations are happy and healthy. And so whenever there's a male individual who's, stepping and standing beside us, I really want to, shed light on them and let them know that they're doing good things and that we are here to support their efforts. I know a lot of our men are in recovery and they're slowly making their way back to us, right? And slowly standing beside us. And so I just wanted to put that out there as we move forward and we talk about stress management. It does play a really big part in terms of where we stand and what we're dealing with day to day. And that's something that's really unique to us as Indigenous people, right? As Indigenous women who carry the family and who are raising our children. And if we don't have children, we're still standing as a mother, or auntie, a sister. We're still playing a role, whether it's a clan mother or um, something in that light, right? We still have a role. So before we get into that, I just wanted to say that. And the reason why I like to introduce ourselves, I like to come together and, usually we're face to face, right? We're in the same room. When I come into the same room, I like to have everyone sit in a circle so we can see each other's face, right? We get to know each other, we get to talk with each other, we get to make those little jokes, right? And it's good to feel the laughter and see each other, enjoy in the moment. Um, and you know how we like to laugh, right? It's been on comedy shows, and everyone knows how Indigenous women like to laugh. Um, so, with that, I wanted to go into a brief scavenger hunt, and I'd like to have you all try to find the following. There's 10 items. So, the rules of the game is I'm going to give you, let's see, how many seconds should I give you? I'm going to give you 40 seconds. No, I'll give you a minute to gather these 10 items. And some of these items you can find close to you. So, setting my timer. I'm going to give you a second to look over these. So, in the chat, I've written 10 items. So, the first item is a pen. Second is a notebook. It could be any type of notebook. Third is a pet. Fourth is a calendar. Fifth is a native t-shirt, because we all have one of those, right? Six is a photo. Seven, canned food. Eight, spoon. Nine, native decor. 10 is a smile. So take a look at those, read them. I'm gonna set the timer. Pen, notebook, pet, calendar, native t-shirt, photo, canned food, spoon, native decor, and a smile. So I'm gonna start the timer here, and let's see who can find the most items. Ready? Are you all good? Get set and go. Pen, notebook. My pet is outside. Not outside, outside the door. 40 seconds. We'll see who can find the most items. I should have had the Jeopardy music, right? 25 seconds. Ten seconds. All right. Coming down to 1, done. Okay. Who has the most items? You come off mute. Show me your items. That would be great. Who has the most items? Let's see your native t-shirts. Awesome.
Yes.
Oh. And then you have your smile, so that's 2. Okay. You got 2. Awesome. Thank you guys for playing. I really enjoy playing scavenger hunt. I know it's kind of rough with us. It's in the evening time and our stuff is everywhere. I know. We don't want to take them off the wall. We don't want to cause another thing we have to do, right? But I appreciate you all for taking the time out of your um to play, right? To play scavenger hunt. So we're going to move into our presentation, and I was talking about earlier, just talking about our Indigenous men, our counterparts. And this doesn't apply to all of our Indigenous men. They're healing, and I see a lot of them stepping forward. And I work with a lot of um, good, healthy individuals who are either walking the red road or taking those steps to live a healthy life, right? Make those healthy choices and lead a good, healthy family. And so we have a lot of discussions about these things. And my job here today is to provide you with as much information as I can related to mental health and stress management and how you can start to address those areas that you think needs assistance, right? So, um, sorry, my daughter has to show me something. Um, so what I was saying earlier is that, we as Indigenous women, we hold a lot of, um, we hold a role that is very different to other ethnicities, other races, because of what we've been handed, right? You look at Indigenous, uh, you look at intergenerational trauma and historical trauma, and you look at how the patterns were passed down to us, right? We have patterns that were given to us that were not so healthy. We have we have learned these different ways of coping that are unhealthy. We have foods that have been passed down that are not appropriate for our diets. We have um, a lot of different things that are on our plate, right? We're juggling all these different things. I always think about, in school, they used to have these jugglers come in and they would have these plates that are spinning, right? They would put them on these poles and they would spin. They would stand them up and spin them, right? And so when I think about stress, I think about how many plates I have spinning all around me. Is it work? Is it school? Is it the kids? Is it ceremony? Is it church? Is it, um, family? Is it friends? So we have all these different plates around us, right? And as Indigenous women, we hold a lot of those stressors. And I think about the term, there was a study done on African American women that says, the strong Black women, uh, they have done a study that looked at all the stresses that they have to deal with. There's so many of them that it's come to find that the strong Black women are, in fact, experiencing repercussions because they are strong Black women, because they are juggling all of these different things. And I think about myself when I read that article, and I think about all the women around me. I think about my mom who had to deal with a lot of these things, who, was an orphan, who um, was born with one of her eyes, she was legally blind in one eye, and who didn't have a family. Her mom died young, and, you know, there's that grief and loss, but also moving in through her teenage years, she had to live with these she had to live this way, which caused depression. And so when she met my father, um, living in depression, living with anxiety, living with some of these things that abuse that she experienced through her life. And to raise a family and to raise and help provide financially. And, my father eventually became alcoholic. And so, we have those family members who are experiencing issues with alcoholism. It could be drugs, it could be, um, you know, food, it could be sugar, right? We have those addictions in our families. And so I think about all those things that have been passed down to me and how I deal with my mental health and how I incorporate a healthy balance into my life and what am I passing down to my children, right? What healthy tips and healthy ways of living am I passing down to my children? Because that's really important. And the other part of that is, having the choice. That's a very powerful word, choice. You think about the past and the history, and we weren't given a choice of what we were able to do. We were told that we weren't able to speak our language. We were told not to practice ceremony. We were told not to um, wear our hair long and it was cut. We were told all these different things. So now that we have a choice and we're able to, do what we would like to do in our lives, now is the time that we take that back, right? We take that ability and we flip it around and we look at all the positives because we have a choice. And we should be looking at the positives and the strengths and our abilities to create a healthy life. And so, looking back at the past again, looking at our grandparents and looking at our parents and really thinking about what are the strengths that they have given me. And so, if you could write in the chat, think about your grandmother or your grandfather, your mom or your dad, and think about one strength that they have given to you that you hold dear today. Think about that. And I would think that one thing that the strength that I was given was the ability to talk to someone and make a connection very quickly. I get that from my dad. He was always able to, strike up a conversation really quick and just find a way to like connect with that person very quick. Um, Regardless of what he did, and regardless if he was an alcoholic, there was still the good days that I remember him, right? And so, really looking at that, because I know we have a lot of statistics, we have a lot of, things that tell us that, you know, whether it's diabetes, whether it's high rates of alcoholism, whether it's this and that and that and this. Um, but really, as a population, we have really low rates of substance use, right? And that's the reality. And so sometimes we get stuck on the trauma, sometimes we get stuck on the negatives. And so I really like to highlight some of these strengths and how we have overcome a lot of this anguish that we've experienced through the line. So I see some of the chat strength to be resilient no matter how hard a situation may get, education, and then her knowledge. Awesome. I really like to highlight the strengths that we have been given, right? The patterns that have been passed down. I really like that. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So as we move forward, we're going to talk about the wellness wheel and the circle of life. And so I use this analogy, the medicine wheel, which incorporates the 8 components of the wellness wheel, right? So the wellness wheel is different from the medicine wheel. The wellness wheel is 8 components that are comprised, that basically make us as an individual, right? It's coming from, you can look it up. It's from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration under the Health and Human Services, which is basically the government, right? So you can look at that information. It's basically all those 8 that are right there. And you can also look at our medicine wheel, right? The mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional part of us. And taking that into consideration, we also look at the circle of life, right? The circle is very important to us as Indigenous people. The circle of life, when I look at something, I look at it in terms of, we have our different circles, we have our different medicine wheels, we have our different, 4 directions and what they represent, the different colors and the different animals. And so this is not specific to one tribe. It can be adapted, and you can take it how you would like to shape it. And so I just like to use this and to acknowledge not only the four directions, but the four quadrants that um, we have in our mindsets, right? The four directions, the four seasons, the four stages of life. And so when I think of the circle of life, we have our wedding baskets that tell us, how we live our life, right? And what is significant to us. And we have our ceremonies. And so when I think about that, it's, birth to adolescence to young adulthood to elderly, right? So we go into that circular format, and there are certain things that happen throughout our life, whether it's ceremonies or significant times, adolescence, puberty, puberty ceremonies, coming of age ceremonies, um, young adulthood, dating, marriage, children, and they might not come in that order, and that's okay. Just using that example. And then we come into grandmother or grandfatherhood and eventually old age and passing down the information and knowledge that we hold, right? And so as we look at us as individuals, and I'm talking about strong Indigenous women, we think about stress. We usually don't talk about this. We usually don't talk about mental health. We usually don't touch on this at all, right? I remember the first time I heard about stress, I think it was in college. And, you know, thinking about our grandparents and our parents, I think there were some things that were pushed and we were kind of motivated to do, right? Whether that was running in the morning or get up and clean, or you make your bed, or um, go for a walk, go play outside. Why are you just hanging around here? Don't be laying around. You hear all these comments from mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, and you wonder why they say that, right? Can you just stop nagging me? Or why do they keep saying that? But really, it was for a purpose. It was for a reason, and our ceremonies incorporate a lot of these things into it. I know our Navajo coming of age ceremony, the Kinota, really incorporates a lot of these things. Women are supposed to come together, and on the 4 days, during those 4 days, they talk to you and they tell you how you're going to live your life and the reason why you have a strict diet and the reason why you run, and they talk to you on how to pray and how to do certain things. And so it's really incorporating this sense of mental health and stress management. And so when we talk about stress, what exactly is stress? It's basically a state of worry or tension caused by something in your life, right? Certain event, a certain moment. Um, and it really prompts us to challenge and address these threats, right? And so there's different types. There's the positive, there's the tolerable, and the toxic. The positive stress is basically um, a brief increase in your heart rate and mild elevation in hormone levels. And so this might be minor, right? It could be introducing yourself in front of a class. That's one example. It could be a positive change, like maybe a new baby, or um, maybe it's meeting someone new, or going on a date with someone that you really like, or um, those positive, healthy life changes, right? They can cause you to react. And so we think about those. Um, we also think about tolerable stress. Tolerable stress is basically, having those same reactions, but they're elevated a little bit higher. They can be a little bit more lasting, and it might take a little bit more time for your body to recover. Some examples would be unaddressed mental health. So if you have these positive stressors and you're not coping with these positive stressors in a healthy way, they can kind of delve into tolerable. And if those aren't addressed, they delve into toxic, right? And then you have this ongoing cycle of like, it's just building up. So the tolerable can also be relationship difficulties. It could be financial difficulties. It could be something like a natural disaster um, or injury. And so those are tolerable. The toxic stress is stronger than positive and tolerable. It's lost. I can't even talk today. It's long lasting, and these are very difficult events to get over, right? Not get over, to move through. I shouldn't even say get over. They're long lasting, difficult events to get through. These could be physical or mental abuse. Um, Perhaps it's in a relationship or even being a child who experienced neglect or physical or sexual abuse that's long lasting. It could be living with a caregiver who has a substance abuse issue or mental health, mental illness, um, and also exposed to violence, like I was just saying, some of that abuse or um, something that will be long lasting. And so when you look at toxic, it takes a while for your body to recover, right? Um, so take that into consideration. Just kind of think about that. And there's a lot of good resources online. You can Google these, you can find some YouTube videos. I link some resources at the end. There's a lot more that can be said in terms of stress. And so, what can, sorry, I'm looking at my question. What can each area look like? Um, I just kind of went through those examples and providing you a little bit of example of what those look like. In terms of self-care, self-care is very important. Self-care is not just bubble baths, it's not just tea, it's not just a bath bomb, it's not just painting your nails, it's not just putting oil in your hair, right? Self-care is the ability and the intention that you have in making a healthy choice and saying to yourself, you know, I choose to be healthy in what way, right? And looking at the 8 dimensions of wellness, I like to do a self inventory, right? I take the medicine wheel and I divide it into those 8 areas, right? I can use this again. I look at this and I divide it into 8 areas. And I take each one of these areas and I think about, what do I need to improve on? Because we are not perfect, right? I make mistakes. I've made mistakes. Physically, what have I done? Socially, what what am I doing? Really looking at physical, what am I currently doing that's not good? Social, what am I doing? Am I isolating? Spiritual, um, am I not praying? Environmental, do I need to change my setting? Am I experiencing stress as a result of my environment? Emotional, do I need to go to counseling? Do I need to talk to someone because I'm experiencing these ongoing thoughts of depression or anxiety? Intellectually, um, am I not challenging my brain? Financial, am I overspending? And do I need to find another resource? Occupational, what do I need in terms, do I need a job or do I need to participate in some sort of job training? Social, is that gossip or am I hearing gossip and what am I doing about that, right? And I know that some of these are hard, some of them are difficult. I understand that. But in terms of self-care, it's really important to take that self-inventory and really look at ourselves. We're not going to be 100% in terms of our wellness, right? We're going to fall here and there. We're going to have these dips, and it's like a roller coaster sometimes, right? And at least for me, I try to be healthy. I try to make healthy choices mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I try to challenge myself. I try to do new things and experience new things. And so, really looking at yourself every single week. That's what I do. I sit down and I don't write it out, but I think about it in terms of like physically, what do I need to do to encourage that self-care? How do I make healthy decisions for myself? Because I have a choice to make those decisions, right? And I have a choice to live a healthy life. And so, really thinking about that and taking that into consideration. In terms of stressors, um, I was going to say something about self care, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Name one stressor you experience and how do you handle it? If you want to put in the chat one stressor that you're currently experiencing and how do you handle it? Because we're all different, and I didn't want to put in there like, you know, here's how you handle stress, 10 great things, because we're all different and we take stress into um we take it, right? We Some of us have to think about it, there some of us just go for it and we're like, yeah, we're going to handle the stress, right? This is what I do, A, B, C, D. And we know some of us need a minute and navigate, go through it, move through it, feel it, talk about it. Um, so if you could put in the chat, name one stressor you experience and how do you handle it? It could be positive, it could be tolerable, it could be toxic. What could it be? I want to say one stressor I've experienced um, in terms of not having enough time to do what I want to do, such as enough running, yoga, exercise, read, or write. I have learned to manage my time better. I do a lot of different things, and time management is very important. Keep entering what you need to in the chat. I'll just talk about time management. Um, setting down a timetable. I like to use Google Calendar. I'm such a nerd. I use Google Calendar and I'll create like a Google Excel sheet and create it and write what I need to write. I've really enjoyed doing this challenge. It's more of like an exercise and eating challenge. So I track my exercise daily. I try to do Pilates, I try to do yoga. It could be 15 minutes of an activity. If you just put in 15 minutes and say, okay, I'm gonna set my timer for 15 minutes. I'm gonna get off my desk and I'm just gonna walk for 15 minutes. And then I'm gonna come back, right? It could be, oh, I'm gonna do Google real quick, 15-minute exercise, YouTube video, right? I can find stretches for 15 minutes on YouTube that are amazing. Neck stretches, upper back stretches are amazing because I hold my stress here. Um, Google Calendar is such a great tool. I also use a planner in my watch. Yeah, I love planners, but oh my God, I'll have like 3 different planners and 2 notebooks and like all these things. And I'm like, which one do I take? So yeah, I just mix myself up. Let's see. I see another chat. Let me see. Sorry, it's not letting me look at it. experiencing more stress than usual right now. Right now, my stress is due to not enough time to get things done by May for myself and my son, who's a senior in high school. I'm trying to refocus and reorganize everything I need to get done. Yes. You know what's really helpful for me too is brain dumping. So, brain dumping is you get a notebook and you just write everything that is on your mind on a sheet of paper, right? I would suggest writing a small and just write everything out. It helps me to understand what's going on, what I'm thinking about, but it also helps me to plan, right? Because I'll be sitting at my desk and like 5 o'clock will hit and I have all these things and I'm like, man, I don't have enough time. And I'll go to my notebook and I'll just write out everything that's on my mind, whether it's dental appointments, exercise, yoga, like I got a deadline, I got to write this, I got to do that, I got to attend this meeting, I got to buy food, I got to don't forget oatmeal, like all these things that are running through my mind, right? And I'll just write it all out really quickly. And so what I can do is really look at it and start to create a list of what I need to get done, right? Um, and it'll be like high school graduation, right? And I'll just take these different pieces and I'll just start writing on my laptop and just write out these to-do lists. And I'll use my calendar to start planning out different things and creating like timelines. I know I love to do those things. I love to put things in order. So that really helps me to really see things like, okay, this is how I do it. This is what needs to be done. Um, that's just an example for me, but you might do it differently. That's totally fine. Um, any other items? So, name one stressor you experience and how do you handle it? Okay, bereavement is one stressor I currently have. Some ways I cope with bereavement is to pray, vent to family, keep my mind busy, read, exercise, and remember the good times I've had with my late sister. Yes, grief and loss is huge. It's one of these areas that you know, it's hard to talk about, and I know a lot of people shy away from grief and loss. A lot of people like to push it aside and like, oh, don't talk about that. Like, no, but it's very much a part of our life, right? And it's very much a part of who we are as people and humans because we are going through a life cycle, and sometimes life cycles of our family members and our friends are cut short, right? And it's something that we have to live and step each day without that person. And so, how do we do that? And I think you're doing a healthy way of coping is by praying, venting, keeping my mind busy. It's really important to have those supports in your life. Identifying 3 people that you can talk to quickly. If you can identify 3 people right now that you can lean on for support, someone you can call right at this moment and say, I need to talk to you. Do you have 15 minutes for me to vent? Right? It's really important. Look on your phone, identify 3 people like right now. Because as strong as as strong as we are, sometimes it's hard for us to reach out for help. Sometimes it's hard for us to put that pride aside and go to that person and say, you know what, I'm not having a good day today. I'm this thing happened, somebody said something, and this is how I feel. It's really hard for us to be vulnerable and to acknowledge those feelings and emotions. I personally, I have to go to therapy. You know, um, that's something that I do because I have a hard time doing that. Growing up, it was like, you don't tell people this, you don't talk about it, you don't cry, you don't talk about your emotions, you just, right? You just live in this box and that's it. So now that I'm adult, I choose to um, talk through these things that I'm experiencing, and I choose to talk about my emotions and my feelings, and it helps me to be a better person. It helps me to take in all the positive a little bit more. My mom, my older sister, and my coworker are three people who I turn to and vent. Yes, awesome. Thank you for that. And it's really important we have these supports because sometimes, we feel so bad. We feel so, whether it's a depression or we're having an anxiety attack, we need to turn to someone, right? We need to have someone that we can rely on. We need to, whether it's a, a support around us or we find someone, whether it's a professor or a behavioral health worker or a friend that you met in your dorm, right? We need to have those supports. And so I really emphasize that. And so think about that a little bit more as you move through. Maybe write it down on a piece of paper if you haven't found those three supports. Find those three supports because it's really important whether you're going through an emotional situation or a relationship breakup and you feel like it's the end of the world. You feel like you can't reach out to anyone. You feel like you're going through such a bad time and it feels so dark and so heavy that you need to reach out to someone, right? And I highly encourage that. Um, and if you have a counselor or therapist, that's amazing, and I really encourage that. Julio put the evaluation in the chat. I appreciate that. And I'm going to go through this briefly. We have about 8 minutes, and this stress thermometer, I like the analogy of the thermometer. It just really helps me. So, am I feeling stressed out? Kind of think about yourself right now. I did this with my family, and everyone was like, "I'm feeling very stressed," like because it was just one of those days, right? I'm thinking about like I'm feeling a little stressed, but after give me an hour and I'll be like, I'm not stressed at all, right? I'm gonna go for a walk here in a minute. It's barely like 5:30 over here and it's nice outside. So I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna take a walk and I'll be feeling so much better. Um, so think about this. Take this with you, take a picture of it, put it in your daily logs or whatever you look at in the morning, pull it out and really think about how you're feeling. Tomorrow morning I might be waking up and feel extremely stressed out because oh my god, I have A, B, C, D, E, F, G all happening from 8 to 9, right? And that really freaks me out. So I have to wake up at 6 and do all these things and get ready and all this, right? So keep this in your back pocket, take a mental picture of it. I like to use it in terms of self-regulation. Where do I stand in terms of regulating myself and my body? Is my heart palpitating? Where does that stand? Am I getting angry? Using this for anger management. You can use it in many different ways. So keep that in mind. And then uh, what we learn from our environment. What are you learning, right? We learn from other people. We learn from our children. We learn from our family, from our parents. What did you learn from your parents that taught you how to manage your stress, that taught you how to live uh, mentally well, that taught you how to be healthy? Think about that for a minute. From your parents, what did you? From your elders, what did you learn? I think from my elders, I've learned that picking up around the house and making sure that your environment's clean. I learned that from my elders, and they would always say, keep doing that, keep cleaning up and picking up no matter what you're doing, no matter where you're at in life. That'll help you to get far, which is really a good teaching, right? School. What did school teach you about stress management? I know sometimes we have those introductory classes, right, that go over stress management and how to be a successful student. And so take those pieces of information that you're learning from school and adapt it and change it to make it fit you, right? Because some of these things don't fit us, right? Some of these things are really just like, oh, how do I use that? But flip it around, tweak it, might be helpful. You could share it with someone too. could be helpful. Social media. What are we learning from social media besides TikTok dances? Okay. Besides um, the community gossip or, the community events that are being held or all the negative stuff, right? What are we learning from social media? There's a lot of good things out there that are being shared. There's a lot of good information about stress management, mental health. What does anxiety look like? How do I cope with anxiety, depression? Who do I reach out to? A lot of good numbers, hotlines, information like that. So think about what you're learning from social media. And then work. I know that in a previous presentation, an individual said they didn't know about stress management until they went to work. So they got into the workforce. They learned that, stress wasn't healthy. It wasn't something that they learned that it would affect them, right? And they finally learned some coping skills on how to deal with that and how to work through it. So those are interesting, really interesting places to think about. So these are some of the resources. Self-care plan. I encourage you to take a look at the self-care plan. I'll put these in the chat. Creating that self-care plan, looking at each of these 8 dimensions and thinking about what can I do better? What can I do better to create a physically healthy me, right? Physically. How do I eat better? How do I exercise more? Even if it's just 15 minutes. What am I eating right now that I need to change? Is it soda? Is it coffee? Do I need to change that out? Do I need to reduce my fat intake? Um, my vice is fries right now. Oh my God. Can't even get enough fries right now. And I'm really trying to that's something I shouldn't be eating right now. What can I eat in replacement? Is it fruits? Is it veggies? Like, it's really hard. Um, Financially, am I struggling? Do I need to have some self-control and stay on my budget? What does that look like? Doing what matters. This is doing what matters in times of stress is a document that is really helpful. This one, I will link this one into the chat because it provides a whole lot of information on how to manage stress. And it's like 130 pages. I know someone was like, oh my God, you're stressing me out with 130 pages. But it goes into detail of, it provides grounding activities, it provides breathing activities. Meditation is very helpful. Yoga, deep breathing, getting in touch with how you breathe and how you stretch. I mean, those are things that take time to learn, but it also helps you with your um, well-being. My stress thermometer, I shared that already, and then the 8 dimensions of wellness. This reference goes into more detail, and it's really helpful to look at the definitions. It'll help you to create that self-care plan and go into more depth of what exactly it is, especially like environment. It talks a little bit more about that, and what you can do to create a healthy space. So I'm gonna stop sharing. If you have any questions, go ahead and put those in the chat or take time to complete the survey monkey link, provide your input. We really appreciate that. And if there's no questions, I will put that resource information in the chat right now. So let me get that started. Julio, if you have anything, you can go ahead and let us know too. Let's see.
No, I don't have anything at the moment, so thank you for doing this. But I'll be on for like the next 5 minutes. If anyone has questions for me or Jacqueline, we'll be here. But appreciate you all. Again, I did put the event evaluation on the chat, so please do that when you get the chance. And this is just to kind of give you incentives for later on, just in case. But we are here for you, so thank you all for being in attendance tonight.
Yes, we really appreciate you being here. So I'm going to put that self-care plan resource in the chat and the doing what matters. Actually, I'll put the 8 dimensions of wellness. That's really helpful right after this one because you would need that. And then the doing what matters in times of stress. It's really helpful document that you can just download on your computer. And what matters in time of stress. And it's good to look through. They'll give you some ideas. Really helpful. Really appreciate you all being here. I wish you a good evening, good night. Um, and remember that you do have a choice. You have the ability to make a healthy choice, and you are worthy of making healthy choices. You are worthy of having a positive, healthy, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional outlook in life. So I really appreciate you for being here and taking the step to start that process. So go on it. Appreciate you all. Have a good evening.